The courtroom was silent. Lyra stood with her hands behind her back trying to look brave. Next to her, stared at the floor. Above them, the 5 judges of the High Council looked down with cold eyes. "You crashed a training vessel into the Academy's main tower," the head judge said. Her voice was flat and emotionless like all voices. 3 months of repairs, thousands of credits wasted. "It was an accident," Lyra said quietly. "Accidents come from carelessness. Carelessness comes from thinking you are better than others." The judge leaned forward. "You both need to learn humility. You need to see what real primitives look like." His eyes went wide. "You don't mean?" "Earth," the judge said. 6 months. You will live among the humans as they live. No technology above their level. No contact with home except emergency reports." Lyra felt her stomach drop. Earth, the backward little planet where beings still killed each other over resources, where they didn't even have proper space travel. "This is too harsh," whispered. "This is justice," the judge replied. "You will learn to appreciate what the Empire has given you." Dismissed. 3 days later, Lyra stood in a small office in Seoul, South Korea. A human woman with a bright smile talked very fast in a language their translators worked hard to convert. "So exciting to have you both here," the woman said. She worked for the exchange student program. "Your families are wonderful, very excited to meet you." Lyra had studied Earth languages during the trip. They knew Korean now, downloaded straight into their brains. But actually hearing it felt strange. Everything about this place felt strange. The air smelled wrong. The gravity was slightly too heavy. Even the light from Earth's sun looked yellow and weak compared to their home star. "Lyra, you'll be staying with the family," the woman continued. "Runs a small bookstore. He has a daughter named, she's 16. Very sweet girl." A bookstore. Lyra almost laughed. Her people had stopped using physical books 3,000 years ago. Now she would live with someone who sold them. "You're with the Park family. Minyu is a veterinarian, an animal doctor. He lives with his grandmother. They're very traditional but very kind." An animal doctor. People had eliminated most diseases centuries ago. The idea of wasting education on fixing animals seemed absurd. 2 hours later, Lyra stood outside a small shop with old wooden doors. Above it, a sign in Korean said "Books." The building looked ancient, maybe 50 years old. On her planet, buildings that old were in museums. The door opened. A man stepped out. He was tall for a human with dark hair starting to turn gray at the sides. He wore simple clothes, a sweater and old jeans. His eyes were kind. "You must be Lyra," he said in Korean. His voice was warm, completely unlike voices. "Welcome, I'm." Lyra bowed slightly, the way she had learned. "Thank you for having me." Come in is making tea." He smiled wider. "Well, she's trying to make tea. She's very nervous to meet you." Inside, the bookstore was cramped and dusty. Books covered every wall from floor to ceiling. The smell of old paper filled the air. Lyra's nose wrinkled. This was so primitive. A girl came down the stairs. She was small and thin, with long black hair tied back. She wore a school uniform and her hands shook slightly as she carried a tray with cups. "Hello," said in careful English. "I'm nice to meet you." "We can speak Korean," Lyra said in that language. "I learned it." Oh's face brightened. "That's amazing, you learned so fast." Lyra didn't mention the brain downloads. "Thank you." They sat in a tiny living room behind the store. The furniture was old and worn. Everything was old and worn here. Lyra's room back home had more technology in it than this entire building. "So," said pouring tea, "tell us about yourself. Where are you from exactly?" "A small country, very far north, you wouldn't know it." The lie came easily. Her superiors had prepared cover stories. "And you wanted to come to Seoul?" asked. She seemed genuinely curious, not suspicious at all. "For school," Lyra said. "Cultural exchange." "That's wonderful." The enthusiasm seemed real. You'll love it here. Seoul is beautiful, so much history, so much life. Lyra nodded and sipped the tea. It was bitter and hot, nothing like the nutrition drinks she was used to. She forced herself to swallow without making a face. Across the city was having a similar experience. Minyu's home was even smaller than this. It was an apartment on the fourth floor of an old building. No elevator, they had to climb stairs. Sorry about the stairs, Minyu said. He was younger than maybe 30, with a friendly smile and tired eyes. My grandmother can't move easily, so I do most of the shopping. His grandmother sat in the living room. She was very old, her face covered in wrinkles. She smiled when she saw and said something in fast Korean. She says you're very beautiful, Minyu translated. She's excited to have a young woman in the house again. Bode, thank you. The apartment was crowded with old furniture and plants. Pictures covered the walls, family photos going back decades. Everything was so permanent. Her people didn't keep physical objects like this. Why would they? Everything could be stored digitally. Are you hungry? Minyu asked. Grandmother made soup. The soup was strange, full of vegetables and something that might have been tofu. Ate slowly, trying not to show her discomfort. The grandmother watched her with bright, happy eyes. That night, Lyra lay in a small bed in a small room above the bookstore. Through the thin walls, she could hear the city outside, cars, voices, music. So much noise, so much chaos. Her people would never tolerate this disorder. She activated her hidden communicator. His face appeared, small and blue. This is torture, whispered. Everything is old and broken and inefficient. 6 months, Lyra said. We can survive 6 months. The food is terrible. The technology is laughable. These people live like animals. Lyra nodded. Just remember, this is punishment. We deserve this. Do we, though? His voice was bitter. It was an accident. It was carelessness, like they said, Lyra sighed. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we start at the university. She turned off the communicator and stared at the ceiling. From downstairs, she could hear moving around, closing the shop. Then quiet footsteps up the stairs. He passed her door and whispered to in the next room. Is she okay? Voice. I think so. She seems lonely. Should we check on her? Let her rest. Tomorrow will help her feel at home. Lyra closed her eyes. Home. These humans had no idea what home meant. They had never seen cities that touched the clouds. They had never traveled between stars. They knew nothing of real civilization. 6 months. She would endure 6 months, then return to her real life. This primitive world and its primitive people would become just a bad memory. She almost believed it. The first week at university was easy, too easy. Lyra sat in the back of her mathematics class, barely paying attention. The professor wrote equations on the board that her people had solved 3,000 years ago. Around her, human students frantically took notes. Some looked confused, some looked stressed. It was almost sad. Next to her, a girl named struggled with the problems. She had been kind to Lyra on the first day, showing her around campus. Now she chewed her pencil and stared at her paper with frustration. I don't understand this part, whispered to Lyra. Do you? Lyra glanced at the equation. You need to move the variable to the other side first, then divide. O's face brightened. Thank you, you're so smart. Smart? Lyra almost laughed. This wasn't smart. This was basic. Children on her planet learned this. But looked so grateful, so genuinely happy for the help, it made Lyra feel strange, uncomfortable. After class, Lyra met outside. Her friend looked equally bored. How was biology? Lyra asked. Primitive. They just discovered things about DNA that we've known forever. Shifted her bag. But I have art history next. Why do I need art history? Art is inefficient. It serves no purpose. It's required, Lyra said. We have to take it. They walked to the arts building together. It was older than the other buildings, with stone walls and high windows. Inside, the classroom had strange paintings on the walls. Sculptures sat on pedestals. Everything was colorful and chaotic. The professor was a small woman with gray hair and paint stains on her clothes. Her name was Professor Han. "Welcome, everyone," she said. Her voice was excited, alive. "Today we begin with the question, what is art? Why do humans create it?" A student raised his hand. "To express emotions." "Yes, to express what words cannot, to share our inner world with others." Professor Han pulled up an image on the screen. It was an old painting of a woman crying. "This is from the Korean War. The artist painted his mother after their village was destroyed. Look at her face. What do you see?" "Sadness," someone said. "Pain," another student offered. "Loss," said quietly. The word came out before she could stop it. Professor Han turned to her. "Yes, loss. You can see it, can't you? Even though this happened 70 years ago, even though you never met this woman, you feel her pain." Stared at the painting. On her planet, they recorded events with perfect digital accuracy. But this was different. The brushstrokes were rough. The colors were dark. Yet something in the woman's eyes made his chest feel tight. "That's the power of art," Professor Han continued. "It connects us across time and space. It makes us feel less alone." After class was quiet as she walked back with Lyra. "You okay?" Lyra asked. "That painting," said slowly. "Why did it make me feel sad? She's not real, she's just paint on canvas." "Because you're tired," Lyra said quickly. "This planet is exhausting." But she wasn't sure that was true. That evening, Lyra helped with homework. The girl struggled with literature, reading an old novel and writing about its themes. "I don't get it," said, frustrated. "Why can't the author just say what he means? Why use all these symbols and metaphors?" Lyra looked at the passage. It was about a man watching seasons change, thinking about his life. On the surface, simple, but underneath. "He's talking about death," Lyra said. "About how time passes and we can't stop it. The autumn leaves falling, that's his youth leaving. The winter coming, that's his fear of dying." Stared at her. "How did you see all that?" Lyra blinked. She didn't know, she had just felt it, understood it. I'm not sure." "You're really good at this," said, smiling. "Better than me. Do you like reading?" "We don't." Lyra stopped. "Don't what?" "Don't read on her planet." She couldn't say that. "I haven't read much. For fun, I mean." "Oh, you should." Jumped up and ran to a bookshelf. She pulled out a worn paperback. "Here, try this. It's my favorite. It's about a girl who has to choose between her family duty and what her heart wants." Lyra took the book carefully. It was light, the pages yellowed with age. She opened it and saw handwritten notes in the margins, notes, thoughts about the story. "You write in books?" Lyra asked, surprised. "Of course, books aren't just words, they're conversations between the author and the reader," pointed to one note. "See, here I disagreed with the character's choice. I wrote why." That night, Lyra meant to just scan a few pages, but the story pulled her in. The girl in the book felt real. Her struggles felt real. By midnight, Lyra had read half of it, and when she finally stopped, her eyes were wet. She was crying. Didn't cry. They had evolved past such inefficient emotional displays. Yet here she was, crying over a fictional human girl's problems. What was happening to her? Across the city was having her own strange experience. Minyu had asked her to help at his clinic after classes. She had agreed, thinking it would be easy. How hard could treating primitive animals be? Very hard, it turned out. "Hold her steady," Minyu said. They were treating a dog, a small, scruffy thing that had been hit by a car. Its leg was broken. Held the dog while Minyu worked. The animal whimpered in pain. Its eyes looked up at with trust, despite the pain. "Why are you helping this animal?" asked. "It's just a street dog, it has no owner, no purpose." Minyu looked at her, surprised. "She has the purpose of living, that's enough, isn't it? But the resources, the medicine, your time, it's not logical. This dog contributes nothing to society." Does everything need to contribute? Minyu asked gently. His hands moved carefully, setting the bone. Sometimes the value is just in caring, in showing compassion. Compassion is weakness, said. Then she stopped. Why had she said that? It was what her teachers taught, but hearing it out loud here, it sounded wrong. Minyu smiled sadly. Is it? I think compassion is strength. It takes courage to care about something weaker than you. Later, when the dog was resting, a small child came to the clinic with her mother. The girl saw the bandaged dog and started to cry. Is that Momo? She asked. Our neighbor's dog. Yes, Minyu said. She was hurt, but she'll be okay now. Thank you, the girl bowed deeply. Tears ran down her face. Thank you for saving her. Watched the girl leave. The child had cried over an animal that wasn't even hers, had thanked them for helping a creature with no monetary value. It made no logical sense. But when the dog licked hand later, tail wagging weakly, something in its chest felt warm. She found herself smiling, a real smile, not the practiced one she used for politeness. That weekend took Lyra to a market. It was crowded and noisy. People shouted prices, music played from shops, children ran between stalls, chaos everywhere. But looked happy. He greeted vendors by name, stopped to talk to an old man selling vegetables, laughed at a joke from a woman selling fish. You know everyone, Lyra observed. This is my neighborhood, said. These are my people. I've known some of them for 30 years. 30 years. Lyra's people moved constantly, following opportunities across their empire. The idea of staying in one place, knowing the same people for decades. Doesn't it get boring? She asked. Looked at her with surprise. Boring? No. These relationships are what make life meaningful. When my wife died, these people brought us food for months. When was sick, they helped watch the store. When I'm happy, they celebrate with me. He picked up an apple from a stand, examining it. Connection, Lyra, that's what makes us human. That night, Lyra and talked on their hidden communicators. I think something's wrong with me, admitted. I cried today over a dog. I cried over a book, Lyra confessed. They were quiet for a moment. Maybe it's the atmosphere here, suggested. Some chemical in the air affecting our biology. Maybe, Lyra agreed. But neither of them believed it. 3 months passed. Spring came to Seoul. Cherry blossoms filled the streets with pink and white petals. The air grew warmer, and Lyra found herself changing in ways she couldn't explain. She stood in the bookstore one afternoon, arranging poetry books on a shelf, had asked her to help organize the poetry section. At first, she thought it would be mindless work, but then she started reading the covers, the titles, opening books randomly and reading verses. One poem stopped her completely. It was about loss and memory, about how love doesn't die when people die, it transforms, becomes something eternal. She read it 3 times. Her hands shook. That's a beautiful one, isn't it? Lyra jumped, stood behind her, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. I thought you might want a break, he said, offering her a cup. Thank you, she took it carefully. Over the months she had learned to like coffee, the bitter taste, the warmth. This poem, it's very moving. My wife loved that poem, said quietly. He sat on a nearby stool. She died 4 years ago, cancer. When I read that poem at her funeral, I couldn't finish it. I broke down crying in front of everyone. I'm sorry, Lyra said. The words felt inadequate. Don't be, the crying helped. The poem helped, smiled softly. That's what poetry does. It gives us words for feelings we can't express ourselves. It makes us feel less alone in our pain. Lyra sat next to him. In my country, we don't really have poetry, not like this. Really? How do you express emotions then? We don't, not much. We're taught that emotions are inefficient, that logic is better. Looked at her with surprise and something like sadness. That sounds like a very lonely way to live. It's practical, Lyra said automatically. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true, not anymore. Can I show you something? asked. He led her upstairs to his apartment. In a small room, the walls were covered with papers, handwritten pages, sketches, notes. I write, admitted. Nothing published, just my thoughts, my feelings. After my wife died, I started writing more. It helped me survive. Lyra looked at the pages. Words about love and loss, joy and pain, simple words expressing complex emotions. It was beautiful. "You're very talented," she said. "You think so?" Looked genuinely pleased. "Says the same thing, but she's my daughter. She has to say it." "No," Lyra said firmly. "It's truly good. It makes me feel something. That's rare." Their eyes met. For a moment something passed between them, something warm and electric. Lyra's heart beat faster, an organ that had always been so steady, so controlled. She looked away quickly. "I should finish organizing the books." That evening, Lyra found herself sketching. She had taken a paper and pencil, something she had never done before, and started drawing Earth's sunset. The way the light turned orange and pink. The way shadows grew long. Her people didn't create art. They had no reason to. But here now, Lyra felt a need to capture this moment. This feeling. This strange, beautiful world she was starting to understand. Across the city was experiencing her own transformation. She spent almost every day at Minu's clinic now, helping with animals. At first, she did it just to pass time, but slowly she started to care. The injured dog, Momo, had recovered. The little girl came to visit often, bringing treats and toys. One day she gave a drawing. "This is you," the girl said, pointing to a stick figure with long hair. "You saved Momo. You're a hero." Stared at the crude drawing. A hero. Her people had heroes, warriors, and scientists who did great things, but this child thought saving one dog made someone a hero. "Thank you," managed to say. After the girl left, found herself smiling at the drawing. She folded it carefully and put it in her bag. She would keep it. Forever. "You're good with the animals," Minu said one afternoon. They were cleaning the clinic after a long day. "Have you thought about becoming a vet?" I stopped. What could she say? That her people didn't have vets because they had eliminated most diseases. That she was here as punishment. "I don't think I can." "Why not?" Minu leaned against the counter, watching her. Over the months they had become comfortable with each other. He made her laugh. He listened when she talked. And sometimes when he smiled, her chest felt strange. "I have to go home eventually," said. "This is just temporary." "How long?" "3 more months." Minu was quiet for a moment. "I'll miss you when you go," he said finally. "The clinic will be too quiet without you." Felt her throat tighten. "I'll miss it too." "Just it?" Minu asked softly. "Or?" Their eyes met, saw the question in his gaze, the hope, and she realized with sudden clarity that she felt the same way. "Not just it," she whispered. Minu stepped closer. "I know we come from very different places. I know you have a life back home, but these months with you have been," he struggled for words, "they've been the happiest I've been in years." "For me too," admitted. I didn't think I could feel this way." "What way?" "Connected, happy, like I belong somewhere." She looked down. "My people don't believe in love, not romantic love. We have partnerships based on compatibility scores and genetic matching. But this," she gestured between them, "this isn't logical, it's not efficient, but it feels more real than anything I've ever known." Minu took her hand. "Love isn't supposed to be logical, it's supposed to be felt." At the bookstore, had noticed the change in Lyra and her father. She wasn't stupid. She saw how they looked at each other, how her dad smiled more, how Lyra's cold exterior had melted into something warm and vulnerable. One night found Lyra sitting in the dark bookstore, reading by a small lamp. "Can't sleep?" asked. Lyra looked up. "Too much on my mind." Sat next to her. "It's my dad, isn't it?" Lyra went very still. "What do you mean?" "I see how you look at him, how he looks at you," smiled. It's okay, I'm happy about it actually. You are. He's been alone since Mom died. Sad, but you make him happy again. He laughs more, he writes more, he's becoming himself again. Took Lyra's hand. Thank you for that. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. I'm not what you think I am. What do you mean? Lyra wanted to tell her everything, the truth, but fear held her back. I just mean I'm not this good person, I'm selfish, I've done bad things. Everyone's done bad things, said simply. What matters is who you choose to be now. Later that week there was a small festival in the neighborhood. Paper lanterns hung between buildings. Food stalls lined the streets. Music played from speakers. People danced and laughed. Invited Lyra to come. She wore a simple dress that had helped her pick out. Her hair was down, loose around her shoulders. When saw her, his eyes went wide. You look beautiful. Lyra felt her face grow warm. Thank you. They walked through the festival together. Bought her street food, sweet rice cakes and fried vegetables. They watched children play traditional games. An old woman sold them good luck charms. As the sun set, the lanterns lit up. The whole street glowed with warm, golden light, and Lyra sat on a bench watching people dance. This is nice, Lyra said quietly. I've never experienced anything like this. Really, no festivals where you're from? No, we have official celebrations, but they're formal, scheduled, not spontaneous and joyful like this. That sounds lonely. It is, Lyra admitted. I'm realizing that now. My whole life has been lonely until I came here. Turned to her. Lyra, I need to tell you something. What? I think I'm falling in love with you. His voice was quiet but firm. I know it's fast, I know you'll leave soon, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel this way. Lyra's heart pounded. She should lie. She should push him away. She should remember her mission, her real identity, the fact that this was all temporary. But instead, she said, I'm falling in love with you too. They kissed as the lanterns glowed around them. And for the first time in her life, Lyra felt complete. That night, Lyra had an emergency, meeting through their communicators. We have a problem, said. I'm in love with Minu. I'm in love with, Lyra confessed. They stared at each other through the small screens. What do we do? Asked. I don't know, Lyra said, but we only have 3 months left, and then we have to leave, forever. Yes. They were quiet, both thinking about the impossible choice ahead, their duty to their people or their heart's desires. Maybe, said slowly, we don't report this. What? These feelings, we don't tell the council, we just enjoy the time we have left. Lyra nodded slowly. 3 more months, we can do that, and then we'll say goodbye and go back to our real lives. Right, agreed, our real lives. But as Lyra ended the call and lay in her small bed above the bookstore, listening to quiet footsteps downstairs, she wondered which life was more real. The cold, logical one she had always known, or this warm, messy, beautiful one she had found here on Earth. The message came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Lyra woke to find her hidden communicator flashing red, an urgent signal from the High Council. Her hands shook as she activated it. Commander's face appeared, sharp and cold as always. Agent Lyra, status report. Agent, the word made Lyra's stomach turn. She had almost forgotten that's what she was. Not a student, not a girlfriend, not someone who belonged here. An agent. Everything is normal, Commander, she said carefully. Good, we're pleased with your observations. Your reports on human weaknesses have been valuable. Lips curved into what might have been a smile. Your mission ends in 2 weeks, not 3 months. Prepare for extraction. 2 weeks, Lyra's voice cracked, but the timeline has accelerated. The Council has decided Earth is ready for cultural absorption. Lyra felt cold. What do you mean? Peaceful conquest. We arrive in 2 years. By then, we'll have integrated their technology with ours, established control of their governments, and begun re-education programs. Looked pleased. Your reports helped us understand their emotional vulnerabilities. Very useful. I don't understand. You and Agent were perfect reconnaissance. Living among them, learning their patterns, identifying weaknesses. The Council is impressed. You've turned your punishment into a successful intelligence mission. Leaned forward. You should feel proud. The screen went dark. Lyra sat frozen on her bed. Reconnaissance. Intelligence mission. They had been spies all along. Everything she had reported, the humans' emotionality, their inefficiency, their chaotic societies, had been used to plan an invasion. And she had helped. She was going to be sick. Downstairs, she could hear opening the bookstore. The familiar sounds, the door creaking, his soft humming, the coffee machine starting. Normal sounds, safe sounds. Sounds that would disappear when her people came. Lyra grabbed her communicator and called. Her friend answered immediately, her face pale. "You got the message," said. "It wasn't a question." "We're spies," Lyra whispered. "We've been spies this whole time." "I know, his voice broke. "They're going to conquer Earth, and we helped them plan it." "What do we do?" "I don't know," looked terrified. "If we refuse to return, they'll send others. If we warn the humans, we violate every law of the Empire. We could be executed." "But if we don't," Lyra thought of all the kind humans she had met. "They'll destroy everything beautiful about this place. They'll make Earth just like home, cold and efficient and empty." "I know." They sat in silence, both crying now. Didn't cry, but they weren't really anymore, were they? They had changed. Earth had changed them. "I have to tell Minu," said finally. "He deserves the truth." "Too," Lyra agreed, "even if they hate us afterward." That evening, Lyra asked to close the bookstore early. She needed to talk to him. Was at a friend's house, so they were alone. They sat in the small apartment above the shop, made tea like always. His hands were steady and sure. He smiled at her with such warmth, such love. "You look serious," he said gently. "What's wrong?" "I need to tell you something, and you're going to hate me when I do." He set down his tea. "I could never hate you." "You will." Lyra took a deep breath. "I'm not from a country up north. I'm not even from Earth." Blinked. "What?" "I'm from another planet, another civilization. I'm an alien." The words tumbled out faster. "I was sent here as punishment, but it was also reconnaissance. Everything I've told you, everything I've reported back, it's being used to plan an invasion. My people are coming in 2 years to conquer Earth, and I helped them." Silence stared at her. His face went through so many emotions: disbelief, shock, confusion, and then something that looked like understanding. "That's why you were so strange at first," he said slowly. "Why you didn't know basic things. Why you seemed so cold and distant." "Yes," Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "I was supposed to observe humans, learn about you, but instead She looked at him with tears streaming down her face. "Instead I fell in love with you, with this whole beautiful, messy, wonderful world." "Are you lying to me now?" asked carefully. "No, I swear. I know it sounds insane, but..." Lyra pulled out her communicator and activated it. The holographic interface appeared, showing alien text and star maps. "This is real, all of it." Reached out and touched the hologram. His hand passed through the light. "This is incredible," he breathed. Then he looked at her. "You said they're coming to conquer us." "Yes, in 2 years." "Can we stop them?" "I don't know. My people are so advanced. They have weapons and technology that humans can't imagine, and they think you're primitive, inferior." Lyra grabbed his hands. "But they're wrong. You're not inferior. You're better than us in ways that matter. You have art and love and compassion. You have things worth protecting." Was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, "What do you want to do?" "I want to stop them. I want to protect Earth, but I don't know how." "Does your friend know, the other girl?" Yes, she's telling me you right now. Then we work together, said simply. All of us, we find a way. Lyra stared at him. You believe me just like that. I've seen how you've changed over these months, how you've learned to feel, how you've struggled with emotions you didn't understand. He squeezed her hands. That's not acting, that's real, so yes, I believe you. Aren't you angry? I lied to you, I spied on you. You're here now telling the truth, asking for help, that's what matters, smiled sadly. Besides, you said you fell in love with me. That wasn't part of the plan, was it? No, Lyra admitted. That was the most unexpected, illogical, beautiful thing that's ever happened to me. He kissed her forehead. Then we'll figure this out together. Across the city sat with Minu in his quiet apartment. His grandmother was asleep. They spoke in whispers. Had told him everything. She showed him her technology, explained about the Empire, about the coming invasion, about her role in it all. Minu listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. So you're really an alien, he said finally. Yes. And your people are coming to take over Earth. Yes. And you didn't know you were helping them until today. We knew we were observing, reporting, but we didn't know it was for an invasion, we thought. I thought it was just punishment, just observation. His voice cracked. I never meant to hurt anyone. Minu reached out and took her hand. I know. You do. I've watched you for months. I've seen you cry over injured animals. I've seen you celebrate when they recover. I've seen you struggle to understand human emotions and slowly learn to feel them yourself. He smiled gently. That's not someone who wants to hurt people. But I did hurt people by helping my people learn about humans. You didn't know, and now you're trying to fix it. He squeezed her hand. That's what matters. How can you be so calm? Asked. I just told you aliens are coming to conquer your planet. Because panicking won't help. Minu's voice was steady. We need to think, to plan. What do your people value? What do they want? Efficiency, order, resources, logic. And what do they think of humans? That you're primitive, emotional, weak. But you don't think that anymore, Minu said, do you? No, said firmly. I think humans are incredible. I think you figured out something my people lost long ago. What's that? How to live, really live, not just exist efficiently but actually experience joy and love and connection. Looked at him. You gave me that. You taught me what it means to care about something beyond logic and duty. Minu smiled. Then maybe that's the answer. What do you mean? If you learn to see humans differently, maybe your leaders can too. Maybe we can show them what they're missing. They won't listen to me. I'm nobody, just a disgraced soldier. But you have proof, Minu said. You changed. That's proof that humans aren't what they think we are. Later that night, all four of them met in the closed bookstore, made coffee. They sat around a small table covered with books. So, said, looking at the two alien women, we need a plan. We have to convince the council that conquering Earth is wrong, Lyra said, that humans have value beyond resources. How? Asked. They won't care about emotions. They'll say emotions are weakness. Then we prove emotions are strength, Minu suggested. Show them what humanity has accomplished because of emotions, not in spite of them. Art, said suddenly. She had come home and learned everything. Now she sat with them, young but fierce. Music, literature, paintings. We create beautiful things because we feel deeply. Science, too, added. Some of the greatest human discoveries came from passion and curiosity, not just logic. And compassion, Minu said. We help each other. We save lives that don't benefit us directly. We care for the weak and vulnerable. Lyra felt hope rising in her chest. It might work. If we can show them that human emotion leads to innovation, to cooperation, to survival advantages. We present it logically, finished. Frame compassion and creativity as evolutionary strengths, not weaknesses. "When do you have to go back?" asked. 2 weeks, Lyra said. "Then we have 2 weeks to gather evidence, to build a case." Looked around at all of them. "We save Earth by proving humanity is worth saving." They worked through the night, planning and preparing. And for the first time since the message came, Lyra felt hope. 2 weeks passed in a blur. Lyra and worked day and night, gathering everything they could. Helped them collect books, music, art. Minyu recorded videos from his clinic, animals being saved, children's joy when their pets recovered. Gathered stories from school, examples of human kindness and cooperation. They built a presentation, a case, a defense of humanity. The morning of departure came too quickly. Lyra stood in the bookstore one last time, memorizing every detail. The smell of old paper, the creaking floorboards, the way light came through the front windows. Held her hand. "You'll come back," he said firmly. "I believe that." "What if they don't listen? What if they say no?" "Then we'll find another way, but you have to try." He kissed her gently. "I love you, nothing changes that." "I love you too," Lyra whispered, "no matter what happens." Hugged her tightly. "You better come back, we're family now." Family, the word made Lyra's eyes water. She had never had family before. Not really. Just duty and orders. But here, in this small bookstore, she had found something her advanced civilization had lost. She had found home. Across the city, said goodbye to Minyu in his quiet apartment. His grandmother held both their hands and spoke in Korean, blessing them. "She says love is the strongest force in the universe," Minyu translated. "She says it will protect you." "I hope she's right," said. Minyu pulled her close. "Come back to me." "I will, or I'll die trying." "Don't die, just come back." He kissed her one last time. "I'll be waiting." The extraction ship came at dawn. It was invisible to human technology, hovering over a deserted field outside Seoul. Lyra and stood together, holding bags filled with Earth materials. "Ready?" asked. "No," Lyra admitted, "but let's do this anyway." They activated their communicators. A beam of light pulled them up into the ship. The last thing Lyra saw was Earth below, blue and green and beautiful. The journey home took 3 days. Lyra and spent the time preparing their presentation, rehearsing their arguments. They knew they would face the High Council immediately upon arrival. When they reached their home planet, the cold efficiency of it struck them immediately. Everything was white and silver and perfectly organized. No mess, no chaos, no life. After months on Earth, it felt like a tomb. The High Council chambers were exactly as Lyra remembered, vast and cold, with 5 judges sitting high above. But now she saw them differently, not as wise leaders but as people who had forgotten how to feel. Commander stood to one side, looking pleased. "Welcome back, agents. Your mission was a success." "We request permission to address the council," Lyra said formally. The head judge elder looked surprised. "For what purpose?" "To present new evidence about Earth, evidence that changes our assessment." Murmurs went through the chamber, leaned forward. "Explain." Lyra and stepped forward. Behind them, a holographic display activated, showing everything they had prepared. "We were sent to Earth as punishment," Lyra began. "We were told to observe humanity and report on their primitive nature. We did observe, but what we found was not what you expected." Images appeared behind her. Seoul at night, the bookstore, the clinic, the festival with glowing lanterns. "Humans are not primitive," continued. "They're different. They've evolved a form of intelligence that complements logic with emotion, and this makes them stronger, not weaker." "Emotion is weakness," Elder said flatly. "This is established fact." "Is it?" Lyra challenged. "Then explain this." She showed videos of human achievements. Humans went to space because of curiosity and wonder. They cure diseases because of compassion. They create art because of love. Their emotions drive innovation. They also fight wars because of anger, another judge said. They destroy their own planet because of greed. Yes, admitted. They have flaws, but they're learning, they're growing. And more importantly, their emotional capacity gives them something we've lost. What? Asked skeptically. The ability to adapt, to change, to find meaning in life beyond efficiency. Lyra showed graphs. Our birth rates have declined for centuries. Our people are isolated, unhappy. We're efficient, but we're dying out slowly. Humans form bonds, added, deep connections that give them purpose. They create communities. They care for each other. She showed footage from Minu's clinic, from the neighborhood festival, from school. This is what we've lost, what we've bred out of ourselves in pursuit of perfection. You've been compromised, Commander said sharply. You've developed Stockholm Syndrome with your subjects. No, Lyra said firmly. We've developed empathy, understanding. We've learned what it means to be truly alive. She looked directly at Elder. You sent us to Earth to observe primitives. Instead, we discovered that humans have evolved something we desperately need. The display changed, showing research data. Their emotional bonds create stronger social structures. Their creativity leads to unexpected solutions. Their compassion allows cooperation on scales we can't achieve. His voice was steady and clear. If you conquer Earth, you'll destroy the very thing that could save us. Save us from what? Asked. From extinction, Lyra said bluntly. From becoming so efficient that we forget why we're alive. Silence filled the chamber. The judges looked at each other, finally spoke. You're suggesting we don't absorb Earth, that we leave them alone. No, Lyra said. We're suggesting we learn from them. We open diplomatic relations. We exchange knowledge, our technology for their understanding of emotion, creativity, community. We could help them solve their problems, added, and they could help us rediscover what we've lost, partnership, not conquest. Impossible, said. They're too primitive to be partners. Are they? Lyra showed one final video. It was from the bookstore, reading poetry, his voice filled with emotion, with life. This man runs a small shop. He has no advanced technology. He will never travel to other planets. But he has something more valuable than any of that. What? Asked quietly. He knows how to love, how to find joy in simple things, how to create meaning from ordinary moments. Lyra's voice broke. And he taught me that efficiency isn't everything, that being alive means more than just existing. Stepped forward. We know we broke protocol, we know we've changed, but we're asking you to consider, what if that change is good? What if learning to feel again is evolution, not regression? The council was quiet for a long time, then spoke. We will deliberate, you are dismissed. 3 days passed. Lyra and waited in a small apartment, not knowing their fate. They couldn't contact Earth. They could only hope. On the 3rd day, they were summoned back to the council chambers. Elder looked tired but somehow softer. We have reviewed your evidence. We have debated extensively. She paused. The council has decided to postpone the Earth absorption indefinitely. Lyra's heart leaped. Really? We will instead open diplomatic channels, cautiously, slowly, looked at them both. You two will serve as ambassadors. You understand humans. You can bridge our cultures. And, another judge added, you will help us develop a program to reintroduce emotional education to our people, starting with our youth. Felt tears on her face. You're really listening to us. Your evidence was compelling, admitted. And truthfully, we have known for years that our society is in decline. We have been too proud to admit we might need help. She almost smiled. It seems we sent you to Earth to learn humility. The lesson worked. Does this mean, Lyra hardly dared ask, can we return to Earth? Yes, as ambassadors. You may live there permanently if you choose, maintaining contact with us. You will facilitate the exchange of knowledge between our peoples. Stood. You turned your punishment into salvation for both our worlds. Well done. 6 weeks later, Lyra stood outside the bookstore in Seoul. It was evening. The lights were on inside. Through the window, she could see helping a customer. She had been gone for 2 months total. She wondered if he had given up on her, if he had moved on. She pushed open the door. The bell chimed, looked up. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then's face broke into the biggest smile Lyra had ever seen. "You came back," he whispered. "I promised I would," Lyra said, "and I keep my promises now." They met in the middle of the shop, holding each other tight, ran down from upstairs and joined the embrace, crying happy tears. "I have so much to tell you," Lyra said through her own tears. They listened. "They're not coming to conquer, we're going to be allies." "I knew it," said. "I knew you could do it." That same evening, appeared at Minyu's clinic. He was closing up for the night when he saw her standing outside. He looked stunned. "Is it really you?" "It's me," she smiled. "I'm back for good if you'll have me." Minyu crossed the distance between them in 3 steps and swept her into his arms. "Forever," he said. "I'll have you forever." His grandmother appeared in the doorway, saw them together, and clapped her hands with joy. 3 months later, there were 2 weddings. The first was in bookstore. Books lined the walls as witnesses. Lyra wore a simple white dress, wore his best suit, cried happy tears as they exchanged vows, human vows about love and partnership and choosing each other every day. Several officials attended, watching curiously. By the end, some of them were crying too, a sight no one had expected to see. The second wedding was in Minyu's garden. Rescued animals wandered freely and Minyu promised to love each other in both Korean and. His grandmother blessed them in 3 languages. Both weddings ended with human food, human music, and human dancing. The visitors looked uncomfortable at first, but slowly they began to relax, to smile, to laugh. One young official approached Lyra at the bookstore reception. "I don't understand," she said. "Why does this make me feel warm inside?" "That's happiness," Lyra explained gently. "That's what it feels like to be truly alive." "I want to learn more," the official said. "Can you teach me?" "Yes," Lyra promised. "We'll teach all of you." Earth's alliance with the Empire grew slowly but steadily. Humans learned advanced technology, learned art, music, and emotion. Scientists worked together. Doctors shared knowledge. Children from both worlds became friends. And it all started because 2 alien girls were sent to Earth as punishment, but found love instead. Years later, Lyra would stand in the bookstore, now expanded with a wing dedicated to both human and literature, and think about how wrong she had been. She had thought Earth was primitive, that humans were weak. But Earth had conquered her heart. Humanity had shown her that the strongest force in the universe wasn't technology or weapons or logic. It was love. And love, it turned out, could change everything, even empires.